Welcome my second sem student of ND College. Today we are discussing about the genus Selaginella. Selaginella, commonly known as spike moss or small club moss, and this genus comprising of about 700 species and distributed all over the world. The genus Selaginella belonging to the family Selaginaceae and the order Selaginellus and under the class Lycopodiopsida. They abundantly found to grow in tropical rainforest, but some species are also grow in the xerophytic conditions like Selaginella lepidophylla and Selaginella rupestris, and they mainly grow on the dry sandy soil or on the rocks. But few species are epiphytes like Selaginella origina, and these species are found to grow on the tree trunks. Selaginella, mainly the xerophytic species, are also known as resurrection plants. Why they are called resurrection plants? Because they curl and become ball-like when dry and again become green and fresh when moisture condition is available. For this reason, they are known as resurrection plants. And from India, there are about 70 species have been reported. Where they are distributed in India, they are mainly found growing in eastern and western Himalayas and hilly regions of the South India also. Selaginella repanda, Selaginella biformis, Selaginella denticulata, Selaginella monosperma, Selaginella casuarina. These are the most common species, that is the Indian species. Next, come to the external morphology of the genus Selaginella. The vegetative plant body is sporophytic in nature, and this sporophyte is an evergreen delicate herb. And they are varies in size from species to species and form of few centimeter to 20 centimeters, up to 20 centimeters. Plants may be erect or prostrate depending on the subgenus. There are two subgenus. One is Homophyllum and another is Heterophyllum. In case of the subgenus Homophyllum, the plants are erect, like Selaginella rupestris, Selaginella spinulosa, etc. And the subgenus Heterophyllum, here the plants are prostrate, like Selaginella crassuiana and Selaginella lepidophyta. There are many genus included on this subgenus. Next, come to the salient features of the Selaginella genus. The sporophytic plant body is herbaceous and shoot is dorsiventral and radial and creeping or erect. Leaves are microphyllous, that is small leaves, and there is a special structures present at the base of the each leaf and the sporophyll that is known as ligule. Here the rhizospore is present, and mainly rhizophore is a leafless structures from where roots are developed. And sporophylls are usually aggregated into strobili. At the apices, it grows at the apices of the branch, and they are heterosporous in nature. The plant body of Selaginella distinctly differentiated into stem, leaf, ligule, rhizophores, and roots. Stem is profusely branched, delicate, and evergreen structures. And the branching pattern is monopodial type. The growing apex of the stem consists of either meristematic tissue or a single apical cells. And in case of the subgenus Homophilum, the stem is erect and somewhat cylindrical. But in the subgenus Heterophyllum, they are prostrate with stout erect branches and is somewhat dorsiventral. These are the main difference between the subgenus Homophilum and Heterophyllum. This is the structure of the vegetative structures of the Selaginella. Here is stem, and these are the leaf, and there are two types of leaves, that is dorsal leaf and ventral leaf. And from the stem, rhizophore is developed, which is a branchless structures from where root is developed. Leaves usually small, simple, and lanceolate with a pointed apex, and each leaf provided with a single unbranched midrib. In case of the subgenus Homophilum, all the leaves are in same size and arranged spirally, forming a dense covering. But in the subgenus Heterophyllum, leaves are dimorphic. That is, leaves have two sizes, that is small and big leaves are present, and they arranged in pairs. Small leaves are present on the dorsal side of the stem and bigger ones on the ventral side of the stem. Bigger leaves alternate with bigger ones, and smaller leaves alternate with smaller ones. Clear? And usually the leaves near the apical portion of the branch bear sporangia and are called sporophylls respectively. That is, the microsporangia that presents and megasporangia, and which have the microsporophylls. Microsporangia have microsporophyll and megasporangia have megasporophylls. And the sporophylls are usually aggregated into a condensed structures, which is here known as the strobilus. Next we come to the structures of the ligules. Mainly on the adaxial sides of the leaf, near the base of the leaf, there is a small membranous outgrowth present in case of the Selaginella, which is known as ligule. And it is embedded at the base of the leaf in a pit-like structures known as ligule pit. This is ligule pit. That is a pit-like structures present at the base of the leaf. And it may be tongue-shaped in case of the Selaginella voegeli, fan-shaped in Selaginella martensi, and fringe-shaped in Selaginella cuspidata or may be lobed in case of Selaginella caulescens. It is more than one cell in thickness. Say here, more than one cell in thickness except at the apex. Except at the apex, it is more than one cell thickness. The structure of the ligule can be differentiated into two parts. One is glossopodium and another is the body of the ligule. So, okay. What is glossopodium? It is a basal hemispherical part made up with large thin-walled cell. And it is surrounded by a sheath-like structures is known as glossopodial sheath. And another part is known as, that is the rest of the part, that is body of the ligule. And that portion present on the above of the glossopodium, and it is made up of many large and small cells. And what is the function of the ligule? The function of the ligule is not well known. It may be a water secreting or water absorbing, or may be a behave as a protective organ. According to Erner in 1936, the ligule is perhaps maybe a vestigial organ. Next, the structures of the rhizophore. The structure arises from the prostate axis at the point of dichotomy and elongate downwards. Rhizophore is a colorless, leafless, unbranched cylindrical structures. When the free end of the rhizophore touches the soil, it develops a tough adventitious root system at its free end. And in few species, the rhizophore is present, like Selaginella crassuana, while in some cases, that is in some species, rhizophore may be absent, like Selaginella cuspidata, and it differs from root in having no root cap. So rhizophore have no root cap, and from stem in having no leaves. Next, come to the reproduction of Selaginella. The reproduction pattern, both vegetative and by the formation of the spore, that is sexual. When vegetative reproduction takes place by fragmentation process or by formation of tubers. Under humid condition, Selaginella rupestris, the trailing branches of the stem develop adventitious branches, and these branches let us disjoin from the mother plants and develop into a separate individual plant. And the tuber appears towards the end of the growing season, and tubers may be aerial, developing at the apical end of the aerial branches. Under favorable condition, tubers germinate into a new plants. And how sexual reproduction occurs in Selaginella? By spore. And the spore producing organ known as the strobilus, and here we get the it is a heterosporous plant, that is they produce two types of spore, that is megaspores and microspores. And spores are produced in a sporangia, that is megaspores grow in megasporangia and microspores grow in microsporangiums and are produced on the fertile leaves known as megasporophylls and microsporophylls respectively. Strobilus is a reproductive structures formed by the aggregations of the ligulate sporophylls at the apex of the branches of the stem. And the length of the strobilus varies from 1/4 inch to 2 to 3 inch in different species. This is the LS of the strobilus. Here you see the megasporangium and this is microsporangium. Megasporangium and this is a sporophyll at the base and this is ligule. Then the structures of the microsporangium. Each microsporangium is stalked globular elongated structures and its color varies from red, yellow to brown in different species. The whorl is 2-layered thick, which is followed by a conspicuous tapetum. In the young sporangium, inside the whorl, a mass of sporogenous cells are present, which is due course of development separate into microspores mother cells, and later on, there is a meiotic division takes place here and produce numerous haploid tetrads of microspores. Microspores at maturity separates from each other, and at maturity the tapetal cells as well as the inner wall of the microsporangium disorganize, and the wall of the sporangium is usually one-layered at maturity, and the microspores are smaller in size than megaspores. And next come to the structures of the megasporangium. Each megasporangium also a stalked structure, but it is a lobe structure and somewhat it is larger than the microsporangium. And here the colors varies from whitish yellow to red. And whorl here is also 2-layered thick and followed by a single layer tapetum. In the young sporangium, inside the whorl is present such mass of sporogenous cells, which is due course of development separate into megaspores mother cells, and megaspores mother cells, all megaspores mother cells except one degenerates. The remaining one later on by meiotic division produce 4 haploid megaspores. Sometimes less than 4 megaspores are produced inside each megasporangium. As for example, in case of Selaginella rupestris produce only 1 megaspores per megasporangium. And after maturity, the tapetal cells usually along with the inner wall of the sporangium disorganize, and megaspores are larger in size than microspores. And sporangia usually dehisce by a vertical slit formed in the apical region of the sporangia, and the spores are disseminated into the air. And how this sporangium is develops. The development of the sporangium is eusporangial type. That is, it takes place with the help of a row of initials which are known as sporangial initials. These sporangial initial cells of the sporangial initial divide periclinally, forming the outer jacket initials and inner archesporal initial. That is, jacket initials and inner archesporal initial develops by the periclinal divisions. Next, the jacket initial by further periclinal and anticlinal divisions, we get the jacket layer, which is 2 cell thick, and archaesporal initials divide in all directions, forming a group of cells which is known as sporogenous tissue. And the cells of the outermost layer of the sporogenous tissues divide periclinally again, forming a single layer tapetum just inner to wall of the sporangium. And this tapetal layer, it is mainly a nourishing layer. The tissue at the base of the sporangium divides to form sporangial stalk. The cell of the sporogenous tissue, in case of microsporangium, finally give rise to microspores mother cells. And these are the different steps of the formations of microspores and megaspores, that is microsporangium and megasporangium. Clear? These are the steps, these are the sporangial initial. This is after divisions, we get jacket initials and archaesporal initials. So, okay? And this is the archaesporal cells with the jacket layer. That is these are the sporogenous tissues. Clear? How we differentiate the micro and megaspora? The further development of the sporogenous tissue give rise to micro and megaspores. In microsporangium, about 80 to 90% of the sporogenous tissue undergoes meiotic division and forms tetras of haploid microspores. And microspores are more or less tetrahedral in shape, and their size is 0.015 to 0.06 millimeter in diameters. And wall of the microspores is divisible into outer thick ornamented exile and inner thin intine. In a potential megasporangium, only one spore mother cell become functional. That is other degenerate. And remaining non-functional megaspore develops vacuoles and accumulates starch, while functional megaspores mother cells retains a dense cytoplasm which is rich in RNA and lacks of starch. The functional megaspores mother cells undergoes meiotic divisions and forming 4 megaspores. All the non-functional mother cells ultimately degenerate. All the 4 megaspores developed from a megaspores mother cell may not be a functional. Sometimes one is functional in case of Selaginella sulcata. In case of Selaginella rupestris, 2 megaspores are functional. Sometimes more than 1 megaspores mother cell in a megasporangium become functional, resulting into 8, 12 or even more megaspores in a single megasporangium also. The resulting megaspores soon develop a thick layered cell wall. The outer layer is ornamented here also with spines and ridges, that is exine layer, and inner, that is thin layer, that is intine, which is known as endospores. In some species, a third layer, meiospores, forms between exine and intine also, and megaspores are much larger, that is the diameter is 1.5 to 5 millimeters. Next, come to the structures of the gametophyte. The haploid spores germinate to form endosporic gametophyte. The development of microspores and megaspore generally starts while they are still inside their respective sporangia. Therefore, the spores are shed at multicellular stage. How male gametophyte is formed in case of Selaginella? The microspores germinate to form the male gametophyte. And here, the first unequal divisions in a microspore results in the formation of small lenticular prothelial cell and large antheridial initials. So, okay, by unequal division, we get small lenticular prothelial cells and large antheridial initials. The prothelial cell does not divide further, but the antheridial initial divides vertically, forming two primary antheridial cells. Next, the upper two cells divide anticlinally by means of a curved transverse wall, forming four antheridial cells, and lower two cells do not divide, constituting the first jacket cell of the antheridium. And next, the antheridial cell, which is nearer to the prothelial cell, divide periclinally by means of a curving vertical wall to form two small distal cells, that is second jacket cell, and two large inner cell, which is known as androgonial cells. Thus, at this stage, the male gametophyte had 13 cell condition, that is 1 prothelial cell and 8 jacket cells, that is 8 plus 1, 9, 4 androgonal cells plus 4, that is 13. After shedding, the 4 primary androgonial cells undergo several divisions, forming 128 or 256 androcytes. And each androcytes gets metamorphosed into a biflagellated sperm, that is an antherozoid, which on disintegrations of jacket cells and rupture of the spore wall along the triradiated ridge are liberated, and these antherozoids are mainly free swimming sperm. And these antherozoids are very narrow and about 50 to 50 pm in diameters at about diameters, and each flagellum is about 30 pm in length. And the sperms of Selaginella are the smallest among the vascular plants. So, okay, then that is the Selaginella sperms are the smallest sperm among the all vascular plants. Since the whole process of development of male gametophyte takes place inside the microspore wall, and the development is here endosporic. Then what is the meaning of the endosporic development? Where the gametophyte develops inside the spore wall, then the development pattern is known as endosporic development, and the gametophyte is an extremely reduced structures. The other two antheridial cells divide then anticlinally to form two distal cells. Here we get the third jacket cells and two proximal cells, and these cells again divide periclinally by means of a curving vertical walls to form fourth jacket cells and two inner androgonial cells. Next, how female gametophyte is developed. Like the male gametophyte, the megagametophyte or female gametophyte development of Selaginella begins while the megaspores are still inside the megasporangium. A conspicuous vacuole develops within the cytoplasm of the megaspores at a very early stage. Thus, the megaspore nucleus undergoes repeated nuclear divisions without cell wall formations. As a result, a thin layer of the multinucleated cytoplasm is developed around the large vacuole. The formation, these are the different steps of the formations of the megasporangium. The formation of the cell wall around each nucleus starts initially at the apical end beneath the triradiated ridge and an apical patch of the cell. 2 to 3 layered thick structure is formed here, and in some species like Selaginella crassuana, the apical patch of cell is separated from the rest of the gametophyte by conspicuous arching of the wall, that is diaphragm. And ultimately the vacuole is obliterated by the formations of the cell. The stage at which the megaspore is shaped from the megasporangium, which is also varies, that is among the species to species. In majority of the species, the final stage of female gametophyte development and fertilization and germination and the young spores takes place while the megaspores with its enclosed megasporophyte rest on the substrate. The female gametophyte increases in size and exert pressure of the megaspores wall, and which cause the splitting open of the megaspores wall along the triradiate ridge. Tufts of the rhizoids may develop from the exposed gametophytic tissue, which play an important role of the absorptions. Okay, the rhizoids help the absorptions of the water and nutrients, and also the rhizoids help to anchorage of the ocean. And however, in case of Selaginella rupestris, the megaspores are not shaped. That is, megaspores are retained in the megasporangium. And the development of the female gametophyte and fertilization both takes place in situ, and young sporophyte can be seen developing on the parent plant. And how Archegonium is developed. Archegonia originated in the apical region of the female gametophyte. And each Archegonium develops from a single spherical cell which is known as archegonial initial, which divides periclinally to form a primary cover cells and central cells. The primary cover cells then followed by 2 vertical divisions which occur right angle to each other and form 4 neck initials. And these cells again divide transversely to form from this 4 neck initial, that is we get 8 neck initials, and 8 neck initials arranged in 2 tiers. The central cell divides periclinally to form outer primary neck canal cells and inner primary ventral cells. The primary neck cell does not divide further, so that a neck canal cell is formed, while the primary ventral cells divides again transversely into a ventral canal cells and egg. Thus, a single archegonium consists of 8 neck cells, which arranged in 2 rows of 4 cells each, and 1 neck canal cells and 1 ventral canal cells, and the egg. That is, single archegonium consists 8 neck cells, which arrange in 2 rows of 4 cells each, 1 neck canal cells and 1 ventral canal cells and egg. These are the archegonial initials. Then the transverse divisions occur, neck initials develop, and that is the 8 neck, that is the primary neck canal cells, and this is the ventral canal cells, neck and the egg. How fertilization takes place. In maturity of the species, the fertilization takes place after the megasporangium gets settled on the substrate. But in some species like Selaginella rupestris, fertilization occurs while female gametophyte is still within the sporangium. Biflagellated sperms are liberated, then they swim to archegonia through a thin film of water and fertilize the egg to form a diploid zygote. So zygote is the diploid stage of Selaginella. And how embryo, that is new sporophyte, is formed. After fertilizations, the diploid sporophytic generations is established and first divisions of the zygote is transverse. That is, transverse division takes place in zygote. And the upper cell, which is known as epibasal cells, develops into one or several cell suspension, and that are toward the archegonial neck, and the lower cell, which is known as hypobasal cells, to the embryonic cells. That is, upper cell epibasal cells develops into one or several suspension cells, and the lower cells, that is hypobasal, to the embryonic cells. The embryo is endosporic. That means the embryonic cells directed towards the base of the archegonium in niches. The embryonic cell divides by 2 vertical walls at right angles to each other and resulting in a 4-celled embryo. A short apical cell with 3 cutting faces is formed because of the oblique divisions takes place here in one of the embryonic cells, and at this stage the embryo proper undergoes a 90-degree turn to its left. The first pair of lips are developed laterally on 2 sides of the shoot apex. Eventually, a foot is formed on the lower sides of the embryonic tissue, and primary root is developed between the suspension and the foot. The young sporophyte emerges from the gametophytic tissue through continued growth of the root and shoot. Next, there is a question is arise. How far Selaginella approaches seed habit? Selaginella exhibits a significant approach towards the seed habit due to the following notable features. First one, it is a heterosporous pteridophyte. We get microspores and megaspore, so it is heterosporous pteridophyte. In some species of Selaginella like Selaginella rupestris or Selaginella monospora, the megaspore number is reduced to 1. And in Selaginella rupestris, the megaspores is written within the megasporangium, and the development of female gametophyte and subsequent fertilization takes place in situ, and even the young sporophyte can be seen developing on the parent plant. Therefore, it becomes evident that the heterosporous vascular cryptogam Selaginella has considerably advanced to a seed habit in some species, but its approach to the true seed is not complete due to the following characters. First one, Thus, megasporangium wall is dehiscent and is not covered with the protective integument. There is no protective integument. The retention of the megaspore permanently within the megasporangium has not become established, the true sediment. And absence of complete histological fusion between the megasporangium wall and the megaspores. And direct access of sperms to the egg, and there is a lack of resting period after developing of embryo. For this following reasons, Selaginella considerably the advanced towards seed habit in some species, but approached to the true seed is not complete. Okay. And this is the life cycle of the Selaginella. This is the sporophytic generations, and this is gametophytic generations. Okay. And thus the life cycle of Selaginella is complete. Thank you.